Good evening and welcome back, and thanks for joining us in the Crosswalk. I am one of your hosts, Phil McGowanich, with my better half, Honorata, and my guide dog, Chloe. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy weekday evening to be with us, and we thought we'd talk about something which you probably are hearing 24 hours a day on local TV or radio, politics, but we have a different spin on it, and I think that we would like to not impress you, but impress upon our viewers that it doesn't have to be like it was, where it was, you can't fight City Hall. We've encountered, local, state, federal level, hon?
Yeah,
and we've dealt with politicians and public servants all the way up, and we found that they want to hear from you. They want to be held accountable. They want to know what they could do to help you. And part of our fight, as most people know, has been with advocacy on behalf of the disabled, specifically the blind, as we are blind ourselves. And we've come across some people who, you always need a champion. And I think at a local level, we found two champions within the Stamford Board of Representatives, and they've been kind enough to help us with a couple of issues, or at least listen to us when they can, and help us at general meetings or committee meetings. And I think that's important to have for us, to have that sense of comfortable feeling to go into a meeting with someone and we're not threatened or feel threatened or discouraged, or it's just a good place to be, and we feel very comfortable with these guys. So what do you think, real quickly? We've dealt on Stamford, Hartford, Washington, D.C. What have been your experiences dealing with politicians or government people in general?
Up until when I met you, I want to say that although I was always very interested in the operations and the politics itself, I've never had an opportunity or thought of being personally involved. And
why is that?
I guess it was that stigma where, one person can't change anything. And
that one vote means nothing?
Yep. And up until when, I stepped into the first meeting at the government center and saw how impactful it could be, although it doesn't appear so, because as we are always told, government moves slowly. But I like to believe, after working for 2 years with different levels, that I do see change in at least the mindset, and that I hope is going to drive the changes that are necessary.
So we have all these weekend warriors who are posting on Facebook every day about this or that, about politics and the system or another party and the Civil War, essentially. That's fine, but do you find it, when you're personally involved and you're there with your cane or me with Chloe, that we're more impactful than a post that we can make on social media?
It has a different, I think social media has different place for delivering different information, and a lot of it is skewed, but I think the best way to find out what's real is to really in person.
It's the politics BS meter. They say that on TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really think in person you really find out how you say it, how the sausage is made, and how everything works. And I think meeting people in person, they have a better sense of you and who you are, who you represent, as opposed to just reading non-emotional text from social media.
A post, an email, a letter.
Absolutely.
So you feel like you've been impactful.
I hope so.
And you're doing great now. You've been in front of Capitol Hill, Hartford General Assembly, Stamford Board of Reps, and
thanks to you.
I couldn't do without you, honestly. So you push me, and I pull you. So we have Chloe here, who is not politically involved. However, she's working hard. As you can see, she's not in a union. She's a Fidelco Guide Dog German Shepherd. We're coming on our 2nd year anniversary of me having her, the Gotcha Day. So she'll be with us, and hopefully soon we'll have our little puppy Zen, who is 3 months old, and he's a Fidelco Guide Dog puppy in training. And the great news is that we'll have him for a year and a half. If he does good and passes his general obedience and basic demeanor test, he'll go into formal guide dog training, and that takes about a year. So we'll have him for about another year. They'll rip him away from us. We're already so attached. And then he goes for training, and then what happens if he passes?
Hopefully, if he passes, he could be matched with me, so then I could end up having a guide dog as well, but we'll see how that's going to go. And it's a long journey ahead.
We're very grateful for Fidelco for allowing us to try this. We're the first blind puppy raisers with the potential of having that as a guide dog. So Zen has joined our pack. We have 3 German Shepherds now and a little Bichon who rules the house. So talking about ruling the House of government. Before I get into Bob and Eric, I met Bob on Facebook of all places a couple of years ago, last October actually. It was Blindness Awareness Month, as is every October. And we were very grateful to have our Governor Malloy and Mayor Martin issue some proclamations on behalf of us. You know, it's White Cane Day on October 15th, as well as Meet the Blind Month, as we call it in the NFB. And I was looking for someone to come read these proclamations for us. And I thought it'd be great to have someone from the government. And I posted on Facebook, and I waited, and I waited. And Bob just put on there, I'll do it, I'll be there. I'm like, great. So Bob came to the meeting, he read the proclamations. We had about 25, 30 people at that meeting, and I hope that impressed him. Hope that it impressed upon him that blind people aren't just sitting at home, they're getting out and doing things. And it got a little hot for a minute, honestly, because he talked about how the city of Stamford has Channel 79, which is a government access TV channel. And at the time, it was relatively new, and they were running essentially a PowerPoint presentation, I think, of slides. And for me who can't see, or those who are print disabled, it doesn't mean much. And under the ADA and state law, government, municipal and state governments communications must be accessible. So we had one guy who was trying to really twist Bob's arm, but Bob didn't waver, and he came to one of our Access for All meetings at the Government Center in Stamford, which we were both on that committee, and we, I'll say, encouraged him to look at it our way, no pun intended. And Bob was great, and at the meeting he said, you know what, I'll get it done. So the next week, you're gonna make me cry now, just thinking about it. We turned on Channel 79, and there was Bob, melodious voice. You can judge for yourself in a moment. But it was amazing, the information that we learned through this presentation and the slides that were coming across. Everything from leaf pickup to your voting, and it was just information that every citizen has a right to have. It was awesome. So I gave Bob a big shout out on Facebook. I get a call from Eric. I helped do that too.
And we're so thankful.
I was part of it, and my daughter's going to help out. I'm like, great. And then we started going to more, and I'm embarrassed to admit that at age 53, I had not gone to one Board of Rep meeting at the city of Stamford.
Until we have met you, and we are encouraged to do so.
I've gone to some of the budget hearings just to help get money for ADA issues that need to be addressed and financed. But since then, we've gone to some meetings, and we have been really humbled with the support that we've gotten from the both of you. We come to meetings, or even listening on a phone if you couldn't be there, Eric. It's been very humbling and heartwarming for us to know that we have an ear, and we may have found those champions that we're looking for, or all the people. Stamford has about 22% of the population with disabilities that are known. It could be double that. So that's where we started, with a disability scene, getting some help. And then we get to know Bob and Eric a little bit, and now having them here, we want to really, impress upon our viewers that, hey, these are your local politicians, they are your neighbors. They want to hear from you. They want to know what they can do to help, because they can make some phone calls to department heads that we can't as civilians normally, and it's great to have them as a resource and an asset. So I'd like them to first introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their background, and then we'll get into why they ran for office. What they're struggling with, if anything, what's going good, and then we'll just let it go on the fly. So Bob, please, since I met you first, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. I had not gone to a Board of Rep meeting until I was 69 years old, so I got a couple of years on you.
Good.
So I want you to feel okay about that.
Wow.
I've been a resident of Stamford for 38 years. I was a commuter for most of that time. I was up early in the morning on an early train, got back, saw my kids, coached soccer on the weekends, and that was pretty
typical
much,
rat race.
That was my typical involvement with that was the only involvement I had with the city. And when I'll sort of segue to the second half of your question, I literally got a text message from the head of social services, but not because of that, but because she was my neighbor, and asked me if I would consider running for the Board of Representatives. And
what was your first thought? That you could say on TV.
The first thought was, you sure you don't want to do a background check first? But she said, the guy who had been he was actually the president of the board, and he had decided at the last minute not to run, and they needed someone to run. And so I had just retired, And so I said, well, that'll keep me busy. And so I was elected. And so Eric and I are finishing up, we're finishing up our midterms, we should say. We were elected for a 4-year term, and on December 1st of 2019, we start the second half of our term. And I think we both feel that communication is the essence of the city. And I think that people don't feel that they can communicate with the city. And I think, the first thing that I did with a background in communications was to go to the mayor and say, I wanted to start up Channel 79, which had been dormant in the city for years and years and years. So we did put up this thing. And I'll turn it over to Eric about how 79 developed. But
Sure.
I did want to say that the thing for me is not so much that what people can get from us, it's what I get from how much I've learned about the city and the people that run it, who are involved with it. I learned more about issues about the disabled than I ever knew because of your reaching out to me. So it
goes both ways, of course.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah. Now, any higher political ambitions? Don't be on the spot.
Huh?
Any higher political ambitions?
No, my mother used to. So the next time I run, I'll be 73 years old, and my mother used to say, "If I make it." So I think the good thing is, I don't care whether I get reelected or not. I was hired by my constituents to do the job, and if that gets me, if I decide to run again and I get reelected, then great. And if they don't think that I've done a good job, I shouldn't be reelected. So I'm just going to do what I think is right for not only my constituents, but the city as a whole.
What a good political answer.
So the whole communications thing, there are a couple of things going on. You can talk about I think how the station developed.
Yeah.
So Eric, let's go to you. Then we'll go back and forth because I think there's a lot of things we can touch upon.
Sure. I grew up in Stamford. I've been in Stamford since I was 10 years old, and I've always been proud to be from Stamford. And other than a couple of years after I graduated from UConn, when I lived in Norwalk, I've lived in Stamford the entire time, going back to 1978. I was also, like Bob, I was a commuter. I was going to the city every day. And the last day I commuted to work, I remember it distinctly, it was March 31st of 1993. And I've worked from home ever since. At first it was strange to be in town at 2 o'clock on a Thursday, for example, when I should be at what had always been my desk in New York. But the more time I spend in town during the workday, it gave me a whole different view of what the city is, what the traffic is like, what the people are like, who's out, who's about. And I, as much as I was at that point in love with the city and proud to be from Stamford, that gave it a whole new layer, and I would never go back to commuting. I always wanted to serve. I always wanted to do something. I got married. My kids were young. I've been involved in a nonprofit organization which actually turns 100 years old next week. There was never.
What is it?
It's Kappa Kappa Psi, National Honorary Fraternity for College Band Members. And I'm honored enough to serve as the vice chair of the board of trustees right now.
All over the place.
I do a lot of traveling. Yes. And then 2011, 12, I had asked Dan Malloy when he was mayor if there was a way for me to get involved. There were a few things that I could have gotten involved in, but the time commitment wasn't right with my kids at the ages they were. And in 2012 or 13, Dan Doplays, who just got elected to the Board of Education in Stamford, he came over to my house and said, "You need to run. You need to run for the Board of Representatives." So I ran in 2013. Wasn't lucky enough to get enough votes to win, but I was told that for someone right out of the gate, I did a reasonably good job. So I served on the Democratic City Committee for the next 4 years and ran again in 17 and met Bob while we were both campaigning for office in adjacent districts. And was lucky enough to win in 2017.
How do you two both feel that? Because you had two people, like two pretty well-known people come to you guys and say, "Hey, you guys should run." Did it give you, were you nervous? Did you feel very confident? Did you say, you're full of it?
I think a little of all three.
A little bit.
And all at the same time. It's big shoes to fill.
It's a lot of work, as I've learned.
Yeah, Harry Day was my representative for a very long time, and I voted for him every time he ran. And when he decided not to run, when I did win that election, I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to serve with him, because he's somebody I still look up to and admire.
On that note, did you have any, like you guys came into politics a little bit later in life, did you have or need any mentors along the way from the city who kind of helped you navigate through the system? Because like I said, the sausage is pretty ugly the way it's made in Stamford.
They don't give you a playbook. They just say, okay, you're the nominee, go get elected.
Yeah.
So I had to figure it out. One sort of handily, but a lot of that was blue wave. I ran as a Democrat.
You can ride that, that's fine.
And that's fine. But I want to go back to the whole communication issue.
Of course.
So we, and again, you can talk about how we developed it, and what it is. So I want you to finish that, and then I want to talk about the website.
Yeah, Channel 79, as Bob had said, had been dormant for 10, 12, maybe as many as 15 years. So the idea of putting up at the very least to bring it live, put something up there. So the PowerPoint presentation, it was just a matter of figuring out what vital information needed to be up there, and then what bits of information, events that were seasonal or important to that time of year, public information that we could put up there. And we rotate things in and out of the slideshow throughout the year on a constant basis. Bob's dulcet tones grace our television every single day. We're going to redo some of the voiceovers with my daughter. Things that are relative to kids. I think we thought it would be a good idea to have a kid.
Sure.
But it was fascinating to me when you said in the meeting, the TV station is, not ADA compliant. And I'm going, to be honest, how do you make a television station compliant for blind people?
Yep.
And just naivete. I didn't understand the problems that you face, and you explained that you voice it. So, and that's why I said, okay, I'll fix that.
That was it. Like, okay, I'll do it.
And it took me maybe an hour and a half to voice the slides, and we put it back up.
We were in tears when we turned on that. We were checking every day, and finally he's like,
very emotional.
Oh my.
And it's such a simple fix to a very important problem.
Yeah, that's
right. We looked at each other and why didn't it occur to us? But once it was there, we were always thinking, what other things are that easy to fix that people simply haven't thought of yet?
Yeah.
And that's what talking with the two of you has helped us do. Whenever I walk up Bedford Street, when the sidewalk cafes are there, I am I'm thinking about things that I have never thought of before. Is there enough space to walk?
He's taking signs, yeah.
Is there enough space, not just for someone who's blind, someone in a wheelchair, someone with a walker,
stroller.
Are the sidewalk cutouts there? Is there enough space? Are the planters in the right place? And I'm very cognizant of that, and that's just one example of the things that you've made us aware of that we think about every day now.
Thank you. We hear that from Marty Levine all the time, the mayor's aide, and even there was a meeting, they were talking about making the Merritt Parkway, that trail, I guess it goes through the different municipalities, and I was told that Jonathan Jacobson said, well, is this going to be accessible? We're like, oh my God, yes. We're finally breaking in, and every time we're before the board or a committee, I think that we're really, we have like Megan Cottrell, and you guys, and John Zielinski. A lot of the representatives know us now and feel that we're by no means are we experts, but we know where to get information and what to do, who to ask. And I feel that just being part of the conversation.
Well, do you feel that more people are turning to you now that you are a little bit more well known as a voice, not just for people who are blind, but who have other disabilities? Are people coming to you?
Certainly. We get calls from the
now?
Part of Social Services all the time. Hey, we have a guy who's blind, or we have a girl who uses a wheelchair, or someone with cerebral palsy. So we're just not dealing with the blindness. And from that, we were on El Sol, the Spanish newspaper. We were on the front page of that. Had an interview translated, and we were on La Voces Radio.
Which strangely turned out in a phone call from someone in a wheelchair from Florida.
Saw the articles a year later.
And hoping that we will help them navigate and find out the resources. So it's very it feels like a very big responsibility to
Sure.
us. But there's we know right now so many resources and know where to find stuff that we don't know, that we're able to direct people and kind of open up doors that we learned what doors they are to open.
It's a struggle. I think sometimes it's a fight every day as someone with disability. Fight may be a strong word, but there's some days where you just want to ball up your hand into a fist, like, oh, I can't believe this again. We were on the way up here. We got denied by an Uber driver in our driveway with a service dog. I don't take dogs. I'm allergic. Well, the law in Connecticut is that you have to take service animals. It's a federal law, and it's part of the employment agreement or the contract between the drivers and Uber. So we'll be dealing with that when we get home, and it's just every day something else.
It's
it seems
always
like,
something.
what now?
But going back to my experience with understanding what city representatives do, I think the Board of Rep meeting that we attended, I think I wanted to
How was
kill
that
Phil.
experience?
It was excruciating, but very informational, and excruciating in a way that I didn't realize how much time it takes
put
to
into it.
get through the issues and how long.
How many years they've been talking about Mill River Bridge, for instance.
And how long it takes for the meeting to kind of, there's like no time limit, like it just goes until it's done. And 11:30, and I'm like, Phil, you didn't tell me this is going to take so long, and I'm way past my bedtime. So my hat goes off to all the city reps for putting in so much personal time and dedication.
I don't think all of them do, though, because there are some guys, I won't call out my name, who we've been to a couple meetings now, more than a couple, and there are some people who just don't say a word. Now, are they sitting back pondering and make a decision at vote time, or not engaged, or
they
not,
didn't do their
not
homework?
educated on the topic at hand? What has been your greatest struggles? Or let's go to the good stuff first. What's been your most successful thing you've been able to accomplish or get from a constituent, like something you've been able to? What's the good? Let's go to the bid, and let's go with the struggles.
Well, there are a couple of things that I just want to I want to go back to the communication. I'm going to keep steering it back there.
Communication lion. Okay.
The city has on the city's website, there, right on the front page of the website, there is a section that's called Fix It.
Right.
And if you go to Fix It at stamfordct.gov, which is the city's website address, and you go to Fix It, you can report lights that are out, overhead lights. You can report blight. You can
Potholes, curb repairs.
So you have a mechanism that you can use, and it creates a paper trail, if you will, a digital paper trail.
Sure.
That's mixing a metaphor. So that, trying to leave a message for somebody, that's, sort of last century.
Yeah.
So you use Fix It on stamfordct.gov, and that's where you get in the queue for getting your things repaired. And so, potholes get repaired, things of that nature. And
I tried it out, yeah.
And the second thing is that the city is going through a major renovation of its website going forward, because strangely enough, people may not realize that the city does not have an email list of residents. And so we're trying to do it so that we as representatives can do outreach, certainly on a secure basis. In other words, we would say, I represent District 19, and I'd say I want to send out an important message to the members of District 19. I would just say, send it to District 19. I would not know the individual emails of the people in District 19. So the city would own the
database.
list. Now, if someone wanted to then email in and start a dialogue, outside of the city email list, that would be fine. But we want to encourage greater communication. Eric and I and our other North Stamford mate, Susan Nabel, in District 20, we hold regular town halls.
I see them.
And we encourage people to come to that, because we want to know how we're doing. I believe in the Mayor Koch school of how am I doing?
How am I doing? Speaking of that, we have 5 minutes left, so I want to get to what have you been struggling with? Is there something that you wish you could be more effective, an issue or a particular matter?
I'm going to jump on the communications bandwagon here as well.
Okay.
Until recently, with the saturation of the use of social media, communication has always been pull. You want to find something, you have to go out and find it and pull it to you. Social media is now all about push.
In your face.
But the city is not able to do that. So with things like, if Bob represents District 19, I represent District 13, if I want to send an email to all of the people who have subscribed, who want to hear from me,
Perfect. Yeah, yeah.
I can send an email ostensibly to constituents 13 at stanfordct.gov.
So that's in the works.
And it'll go, yes, that's in the works. And it'll go out to everybody. So I can push information to them if they subscribe to hear it. Just like joining a group, liking a group on Facebook, for example. So trying to get more ways for people to sign up to have information pushed to them, a la Twitter, Facebook messaging, email.
Every committee meeting, every board meeting is videoed.
Recorded, yeah.
And it's available on the city website, under videos. People don't realize that. The major board meeting is live.
You've done some Facebook Live at some of these meetings.
We try to do.
We
we're
appreciate
trying to
it.
use how people consume media is totally different, even in the last 5 years. Let's say.
Absolutely.
So we want people to engage with us, to guide us in the things that we should be doing. I've had more successes than I have frustrations.
That is terrific. I'm glad to hear that.
In my district, we were able to work with the city on getting a rumble strip put in on Long Ridge Road when the state repaved it. I worked with the local transportation department under Jim Travers. And the state approved it, and now if people, it's traffic calming, because basically in my district they care, schools, potholes, and taxes.
And leaf pickup.
That's it, and leaf pickup.
Yeah.
But more potholes and
That affects your quality of life every day.
Right. So we need to hear that. I know. Are we doing enough? We got a road changed to allow for better traffic flow that would slow outbound traffic off of Long Ridge Road. So those kind of successes, or helping people navigate through an issue they may be having through the system. That's where I think the representative. This is not a advocacy.
We have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we're not an advocacy group.
Yep.
We're there to help the residents of the districts and the city as a whole.
Yeah.
And I love when it sounds corny, it sounds cliche, but it's true. Whenever I'm able to...
That's better than some of your jokes on Facebook, so don't worry.
Listen, sign up. Whenever I'm able to actually help someone, if someone calls me with an issue, first of all, they're thanking me for my time. They don't have to do that. That's what I signed up for that.
Right.
If I can actually help them, if I can make a difference, even if it's just pointing them in the right direction, sending them to fix it, making a phone call for them. It's 10 minutes for me, but it's so important to them, and to be able to make that kind of a difference for someone, it's everything.
I had the mayor double Eric's salary last year.
That is true.
Because
twice.
We'll wait till January when the payrolls come out, but
that's an important point to make.
We're unpaid.
Unpaid.
That's an important point. We're one of the few cities of our size that has a volunteer city council.
Well, you're not gonna get any overtime here because we're running out of time. So I want to
We have to do another episode.
Issues.
Yeah.
So we have Representative Bob Lyon, Representative Eric Morson, and we want to thank you for being here. And I think the takeaway is your local government officials want to hear from you. They want to work with you. They want to help you. Con, you want to say goodbye and wrap it up?
Thank you so much, and really the communication is the door to making stuff work and making the city of Stamford work for all.
And thank you guys for your help, because you've been
Thank you for having
our
us.
little struggles for independence and accessibility. Everybody, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining in. You'll be in the Crosswalk once again. Take care and good night.